Have you ever wondered if the strategies that won battles thousands of years ago could still pack a punch today? You might be shocked to learn that the answer is a resounding yes. Forget dusty history books. We're diving deep into the raw, brilliant tactics of ancient warfare that are still being used to win battles, business deals, and even arguments in the 21st century. Get ready, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see history and modern strategy forever. Let's start with one of the most legendary names in history, Alexander the Great. At the Battle of Gaugamela, he faced a Persian army that vastly outnumbered his own. It looked like an impossible fight, but Alexander didn't see an overwhelming force. He saw an opportunity. He used a tactic called refused flank. Instead of charging straight ahead, he angled his right flank forward, almost like he was marching away from the battlefield. The Persian king Darius got confused and sent his cavalry chasing after Alexander's flank, creating a gap in his own front line. That was the moment Alexander was waiting for. He wheeled his elite companion cavalry around and smashed right through that gap, heading straight for the Persian king panicked and fled, and his massive army crumbled. So, how is this ancient tactic still relevant? Think about modern business. A smallest startup can't compete with a corporate giant on all fronts, right? They don't have the same budget or resources. So, they use a refused flank strategy. They focus on a niche market, a specific customer need that the big corporation is ignoring. By concentrating their forces on this one area, they can create a gap, dominate that niche, and establish a strong foothold before the bigger competitor even realizes what's happening. It's Alexander the Great, but in a boardroom. It's not about fighting everywhere. It's about choosing where you fight and creating the opening yourself. Now, let's journey from Macedonia to ancient China, to the mind of the master strategist, Sun Tzu. His book, The Art of War, is basically the Bible of strategy. One of his most famous principles is all warfare is based on deception. He argued that tricking your enemy is more effective than overpowering them. A classic example is the empty fort strategy. Imagine you're a general with only a handful of soldiers and a massive enemy army is approaching your city. What do? The legendary strategist Zhuge Liang supposedly faced this exact scenario. Instead of preparing for a hopeless fight, he did something utterly bizarre. He ordered the city gates to be thrown wide open and had a few old men sweep the streets while he calmly sat atop the city wall playing his zither. The enemy general arrived, saw this strange, peaceful scene, and immediately suspected a trap. He thought, this has to be an ambush. Why else would they be so calm? Fearing a hidden army, he ordered a full retreat. Zhuge Liang won without a single soldier lifting a sword. This sounds like something out of a movie, but this principle of deception is used constantly today. In cybersecurity, it's called a honeypot. Security experts will set up a fake, vulnerable-looking computer system to attract hackers. The hackers think they've found an easy target and attack the honeypot, revealing their methods, tools, and identity. All while the real, valuable data is safely protected elsewhere. The hackers are tricked into revealing themselves, just like the army that retreated from Zhuge Liang's empty fort. It's the ultimate mind game. Let's go back to the Romans. The masters of engineering and discipline. One of their most devastating tactics wasn't a clever maneuver, but a brutal, grinding siege weapon. The siege tower. At the siege of Masada, the Romans faced a fortress on top of a massive, steeper prato. It was considered impregnable. Direct assault was impossible. Did the Romans give up? Absolutely not. They spent months building a gigantic earthen ramp up the side of the cliff. Then, they rolled a massive, fortified siege tower up the ramp. This tower was a mobile fortress, protecting soldiers inside as they got level with the enemy walls. From the top, they could rain down arrows and eventually place a battering ram to breach the wall. The sheer, relentless effort was a psychological weapon in itself, showing the defenders that the Romans would stop at nothing to win. How does this translate to today? Think about major political campaigns or corporate takeovers. It's often not one brilliant move that wins, but a sustained, relentless campaign. It's the constant advertising, the daily press releases, the grassroots organizing, the non-stop pressure applied from every angle. Just like the Roman siege ramp, it's a slow, methodical, and overwhelming application of resources and effort that wears down the opposition until they can no longer resist. It's a war of attrition, proving that sometimes the most effective tactic is sheer, unyielding persistence. And what about using the environment itself as a weapon? The Battle of Thermopylae is famous for the 300 Spartans. But the real genius was the choice of battlefield. The Spartans chose a narrow coastal pass where the massive Persian army couldn't use its numbers. They were forced to fight the Spartans in a bottleneck, a choke point where only a few soldiers could fight at a time. This negated the Persians' biggest advantage and allowed the small Greek force to hold them off for days. It's a classic force multiplier, where the terrain makes your small force fight like a much larger one. This tactic is a cornerstone of modern military and even police strategy. SWAT teams will try to funnel suspects into a single hallway or room to limit their movement and gain a tactical advantage. In urban warfare, controlling narrow streets, bridges, and alleyways is crucial. It's all about manipulating the battlefield to your advantage. But it even applies to everyday life. Ever feel overwhelmed by a huge to-do list? A modern-day choke point strategy is to focus on the one most important task. By funneling all your energy into that single pass, you prevent the overwhelming army of tasks from swarming you all at once. You control the battlefield of your own productivity. Finally, let's talk about the psychological game. The Mongols, under Genghis Khan, were masters of psychological warfare. Before they even arrived at a city, their reputation preceded them. They cultivated a myth of unstoppable ferocity. They would often demand a city's surrender, and if the city refused, they would utterly destroy it. Ensuring that no one was left to tell the tale except for a few they intentionally let escape, these survivors would flee to the next city, telling horrific stories of the Mongol horde. By the time the Mongols actually arrived at the next city, the inhabitants were often so terrified that they would surrender without a fight. The battle was won before it even began. This tactic of winning in the minds of the enemy is alive and well. In business negotiations, a company might leak news of a powerful new partnership or a breakthrough technology right before a big meeting. This makes the other side feel weaker and more likely to accept a less favorable deal. It's about shaping the narrative and controlling your opponent's perception of your power. It's a ruthless but incredibly effective strategy that proves the mind is the most important battlefield of all. From Alexander's tactical brilliance and Sun Tzu's deception to Roman persistence and Mongol psychological warfare, these ancient strategies are not relics of the past. They are living, breathing principles that continue to shape our world in ways we rarely notice. They are the hidden blueprints for success in conflict, business, and even our personal lives. The next time you see a startup outsmart a giant corporation or a political campaign wear down its rival, ULL no, Yuri not. Just watching modern news, you rewatching ancient history play out all over again. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you found these ancient tactics as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the strategies that shape our world. Drop a comment below and let me know which ancient tactic you think is the most powerful today. Until next time, stay curious and stay strategic.